What the churches don't tell you about the end times timeline, to spare your fear and anxiety. What if I told you your church is deliberately keeping you in the dark about the most urgent biblical truths? Not because they don't know them, but because they're afraid of how you'll react. Today, I'm exposing the end times timeline that most pastors refuse to preach, and why they think you can't handle the truth. Let's be honest. Churches want you to walk out feeling hopeful, refreshed, and ready to face the week. But here's what really happens behind closed doors. Pastoral meetings where they discuss which prophecies are too scary for Sunday morning. They've made a calculated decision. Your comfort over biblical truth. Let me show you what they're hiding. First, the tribulation timeline. Most churches will tell you about God's love and Jesus' return, but they won't tell you about the 7 years of unprecedented suffering that preceded. Why? Because Revelation 6 through 19 describes plagues, famines, and supernatural disasters that would terrify most congregations. They're afraid you'll panic. They're afraid you'll stop tithing. They're afraid you'll leave. But here's what the Bible actually says about the sequence of events. The rapture happens first, but not the way most churches teach. It's not a secret escape from suffering. It's a gathering for the final battle. Then comes the 7-year tribulation period. Not metaphorical, literal. 7 years of God's wrath poured out on a rebellious world. During this time, the Antichrist rises to power. Not some distant future figure, the Bible gives us specific signs that we can recognize today. But your pastor won't connect these dots because it might cause unnecessary anxiety. The 2 witnesses appear in Jerusalem. They'll be killed and resurrected on live television. Every eye will see it. But churches avoid this because it sounds too much like a horror movie. And here's something else most churches won't touch. It's what's happening with our weather. The Bible clearly warns that in the last days there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Matthew 24-7 and Luke 21:25-26 speaks of dismay among the nations. Bewildered by the roaring of the sea and the surging of the waves. Just look around. We're seeing snow fall in regions that have never seen snow before. Catastrophic floods wiping out entire communities. And hurricanes and tsunamis growing more frequent and more intense every year. In 2024 alone, there were over 600 major extreme weather events worldwide, more than any year on record, with floods in Brazil displacing hundreds of thousands, and wild out-of-season storms hitting places that used to be safe. These are not just random acts of nature. They're exactly the kinds of signs Jesus told us to watch for. Yet, how many pastors are connecting these headlines to biblical prophecy? Instead, most avoid the topic or chalk it up to politics, missing the urgent message these events are sending. The truth is, these massive changes in the weather are just one more sign that the times that Bible speaks of are unfolding right before our eyes. Then comes Armageddon, the final battle where Christ returns with his army to defeat the forces of evil. Not a spiritual battle, a physical war with real casualties. Finally, the Millennium, Christ's 1,000-year reign on earth. But even this gets watered down because it challenges modern theology about heaven. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your church has decided that keeping you comfortable is more important than keeping you informed. They'll teach you about God's love, which is real and important, but they won't prepare you for what's actually coming. They've traded biblical accuracy for emotional safety. But you deserve the whole truth, even if it's frightening. The early church didn't have this luxury. They faced persecution, martyrdom, and the constant expectation of Christ's return. They were prepared because they knew the full timeline. Modern churches have created a sanitized version of Christianity that avoids anything that might disturb your peace of mind. But peace built on ignorance isn't real. Peace, it's false security. So here's my challenge to you. Don't let your church decide what biblical truths you can handle. Study these prophecies yourself. Read Revelation, Daniel, and Matthew 24 without someone filtering it through their fear of your reaction. Because when these events begin to unfold, and they will, you'll want to be prepared, not surprised. The question isn't whether these things will happen. The question is whether you'll be ready when they do. If this opened your eyes to what churches might be withholding, share this video with someone who's ready for the unfiltered truth. Subscribe to Tiny Seed Bible for more biblical revelations that you should probably know. The truth isn't always comfortable, but it's always necessary.